basically the basic truth: capitalism versus socialism, American history. We're becoming a nation with amnesia. Most people don't even know what our country has gone through. And so we started developing this enterprise called PragerU, which is the opposite of most universities. We basically teach in many ways, what is not being taught in most schools. We're free of charge. Once upon a time, we were free of censorship, but no longer. 10 years into it, we just eclipsed 5 billion views. The majority of our audience is under the age of 34. We take these complex ideas, we simplify them, we make 5-minute videos, we make these different little shows, and we just get that information out there. And young people love it because they're realizing that they're being lied to, and they're realizing that the tools that they were supposed to be given in schools are not given to them. And so they're starving for this information. And that's what we do. People don't realize that our freedoms are being taken away from us. We're almost willingly giving away all of our freedoms because of the convenience of technology. And so we are very, very focused on informing people about what is going on. And I would say for anybody who's liberal listening to this, you may not agree with what we have to say, but the old American value is, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend your right to say so, because eventually it will be what you want to say and you will lose your voice as well. And America has been built on free speech. And if we lose free speech, we will lose America as we know it. I think we need to come together because it's been death by 1,000 cuts. That's number one. We haven't been organized. And so a big part of what PragerU is trying to do is to just bring everybody together. Again, you don't have to agree with us on everything we have to say. You don't have to agree with every video that we have. But if you believe in freedom of speech, if you believe that another side, another perspective should be heard out there. And so we just need to get organized. We need to come together. There are many of us who agree in classical liberalism, conservatism, all of us who don't want our kids to be taught critical race theory. We don't want corporate America to adapt all these, white fragility concepts that they're destroying businesses with. It's absurd. So come join us so we're not doing it alone, and speak out. We can't be afraid. I know it's a new level of courage that our country is demanding right now. And so we might not be, grabbing our armor and running into battle, but there is a war of ideas and it needs to be fought or we will lose America as we know it.
So PragerU is, spiritually and mentally united here. Our guest today is Marissa Streich. She's the CEO of Prager University. She is a member of Israeli intelligence, which I have tremendous respect for. I mean, I think Israel was formed in 1947, the year I was born. And in 1967 was the first war, well, not the first war, but they kicked Egypt's butt. And I was so inspired. It was 1967, I was 20 years old. And because I saw the Israeli Air Force just cream the Egyptian Air Force, and I went to talk to my English teacher, and he was a bomber pilot in World War II, a B-17 pilot. He got shot down twice. And I had this high-paying job waiting for me. And I said, I kind of like what those Israelis are doing. He says, then go fly. And I gave up a very high-paying job to make $200 a month as a Marine pilot. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. So I have tremendous respect for Israel. I've met your leaders there, and they don't mince their words. They're pretty blunt, which I appreciated. And so I want to find out two things. One was, how did you get into Israeli intelligence, but also what message do you have for women? Because that's a whole nother subject.
I served in a small unit called 8200, which was an intelligence. And, Israel is constantly under attack. It can't afford to make big mistakes, and it makes many mistakes, but none of them are ones that Israel can afford to do. And so intelligence is key. It's very important. Limited resources in Israel. And, I feel like so much of what I learned in the Israeli military and intelligence has impacted the way I think today. It's such a gift what they had given me. I'm incredibly grateful, especially as an American. I was raised in Israel, but because I came with an American family, I felt very strongly American there. And coming back here to the United States with the gifts that Israel had given me during my military training, I felt compelled to at least employ them here in my country, in my nation, in the United States. And not only does Israel, in my opinion, have the right to defend itself, Israel has the obligation to defend its citizens. And so when Israel defends its citizens, and thankfully Israel has this incredible technology, the Iron Dome, where they're able to actually stop the rockets from landing into the Israeli cities mid-air. It's such a blessing to have that kind of technology, but some of the rockets do fall in, and then on top of it, many of the Palestinians and the terrorists involved in this recent eruption are running into Israel, into the cities, and causing all kinds of additional violent attacks, whether it's stabbing or driving with their cars through Israeli neighborhoods and restaurants, and so it's very hard. I mean, I remember living there during multiple intifadas, which is what we call those violent periods of times where the Palestinians would go in. It's very hard. It's not a conventional war. It's a war against citizens. Luckily for Israel, it has some ability to defend its citizens through technology, but it's the classic example of the fact that people in social media and around the world who don't understand the conflict look at it as if, well, Israel's able to defend itself and it's made more progress and it appears stronger, and therefore if they appear stronger, they must be the ones who are actually the bad guys. There's an understanding that there's some basic differences between the sexes, and when you're all this toxic masculinity nonsense, I was like, we need real men. We need real men to be law enforcement officers. We need them to be in the military, and we need them to just be good husbands that protect their families and don't see themselves as effeminate creatures. And so it's another one of those bizarre things that our education system is causing total chaos in our society. And I know we're both in the world of education because we recognize that education got us into this mess, and education is going to have to get us out of this mess.
This is a very important call. I want to thank Marissa Straight, because this is about education. And Dennis Prager's Prager University and Rich Dad, we're on the same side, the same team in all this. And I really appreciate what she said. That's guts. I mean, I have tremendous respect. Marissa being a tough woman. If she was in Israeli defense, she had to be really tough, because those guys are tough.